Mario Murillo, you are one of the most interesting bloggers. By the way, how can people follow your blog? I want to get this out now and not lose it, because you write. I mean, you write like Thomas Paine wrote. You're like the awakener with a pen. How do they get a hold of this?
MarioMurillo.org. That's how they get to it. They get to everything. MarioMurillo.org. And thank you for that.
MarioMurillo.org. All right, now,
yes,
you mentioned Newsweek and Time, and you do. Now, I have to admit that you get shot at by the left, and what are they saying about you? What is rankling them up over there?
Well, according to the Huffington Post, I'm brainwashing the minds of American youth, which is something I wear with a badge of honor, because they're not getting brainwashed, they're getting their souls washed. But it is a marvelous accusation that it shows the impact we're having, and we give God the glory for
it. And so you any particular quote that you've got that is brainwash worthy, or do you remember what it was they were upset about, or is it everything you're doing?
Well, it is just specifically that I am saying that we are at a moment in history which is right between the 3rd and 4th chapter of Esther, and I'm not going to do a long exegetical deal. It was a beauty contest that Esther won, and in the mind of Mordecai, it was a beauty contest won by a Jewish girl to help create favor in the kingdom. It ended up that genocide. When he discovered it, he put on sackcloth and ashes, sent a drastic message that finally got to Esther, and he's basically saying the beauty contest is over. And now it is time for you to stick out your pretty little neck and save a nation. That is the message of God to the American church. The beauty contest is over. There is a absolutely undeniable mass war on our freedom by an elite group of people. And if we don't act, one of the comments I made that bothered them is I said, I wonder how long, I would love to ask the leaders of the underground church, how long were you underground before you realized it? And how much does the church have to go through in America before it wakes up to the fact that we are essentially, in many ways, already underground? And so that Mordecai call, you've come to the kingdom for such a time as this. You are here in this golden moment to be used of God to rekindle the flame of freedom in America and the gospel to the world. And that really does strike a nerve. It really makes them start manifesting.
Wow. Well, I think we should push the issue just another step further. There are people that are watching, that are regular people watching broadcasts like this. And I believe they make up the future of America. Roughly half the people that voted for Trump are already ardent believers in Jesus. And in a sense, almost that works against them because they're built-in conflicted about how active to be in politics. However, the people that are coming in that will change America are people listening right now who have maybe never experienced what it's like to be an evangelical or to be a Christian. What do you tell folks like that in your tent meetings?
What I tell them in their tent meetings is when George Washington was encamped in New York City, the majority of the city loved England and were a threat to him and his soldiers. The Continental Army was vulnerable. And it was the Black Robe Brigade, a group of preachers that awakened the conscience of America to understand that there is a unique thing going on in America, that God is in it. And if you really want to win souls, if you really want the gospel to remain free, and I say this to the church, you need to get in your pulpit and become a part of the Black Robe Regiment, to be the individuals that stand up and say the cause of getting rid of censorship, cancel culture, critical race theory, and all the garbage that's being unloaded on it is a natural extension of biblical truth. That's why in Acts 16, Paul the Apostle told the people in Philippi, you violated our civil rights. And in doing so, after the jail was broken down by an earthquake, it was a moment when Paul was enforcing his Roman citizenship for the sake of the survival of the Philippian church, where he would say to them later, he that began a good work in you will complete it to the day of Jesus Christ. But he saw no contradiction between invoking law when it was righteously moral to do so. This is the moment for that. This is the moment for the American church to galvanize her convictions, to throw off this garbage of Biden, socialism, the pandemic manipulation of our reality and our life, and to seize the moment, because it's 1776 all over again, folks, right now.
Well, Mario, nobody articulates that better than you. We're gonna have you back on discussing how the American people are responding to that moment. And I think you've given me a great opportunity to segue into someone I want to bring into the conversation. I want to introduce Bishop Garland Hunt. Garland Hunt is one of the pastors and activists at the front lines of the battle of culture. Garland, thanks for staying on with us today and being part of this segment. You'll be in future segments too. I want the people to get to know you. But you've been a member of the Georgia Bar Association, active in the political arena, a longtime advocate of religious liberties. You've got a book that I'm reading now called Crisis in America. It really fits with what Mario's saying. The Apostle Paul, a bit of an activist in his own way, telling the Philippian jailers, hey, let the government come, fetch me out of jail. I never should have been here in the first place. What's your message to American Christians regarding this whole incendiary and delicate issue of race? Because it's being manipulated by politicians, and the church really isn't in the voice. What's the message to the church about how we get engaged in this?
No, it absolutely is a time for an organization that can talk about what we have to do in our nation. Our nation needs revival. And the fact of the matter is, Black Lives Matter, critical race theory, all these other, what I call those that try to come in and hijack what is the Christian voice, have attempted to take us a wrong way. But there has to be a biblical example from the church that says that this is a hard issue. Crisis in America, a Christian response, speaks to why we need a biblical response. Like, for instance, Isaiah talks about in 59 how justice and truth is just thrown down in the streets because people are in the streets protesting for justice when we serve a just God. And he's looking at the condition of the church. He's looking at people's hearts. He's not concerned just about a knee in one's neck. He's concerned more in our lack of being on our knees before him. If we can get a people, particularly from the Black race, Hispanic race, minorities, that cry out to God like never before, we will see a move of God, I believe, that will transform hearts in our nation. It's not just throwing a rock in a window. It's the rock Christ Jesus that has to throw the rock in our tattered soul and allow us to make a stand. And literally, there has to be a biblical response to everything, even when you deal with the crisis of COVID-19 or leadership crisis or any other crisis that faces our nation. We have to see what the Bible says and what is a biblical worldview to every issue. And CNN and any other liberal media cannot provide the narrative. The narrative must be based on a biblical standard.
Well, I love what you're saying, and you're a voice that really is emerging in this movement in this hour. People need to connect with you. Or do you lead an organization there in Georgia, Bishop, that we need to know about? What are you doing there?
Well, I'm the founder of an organization called the One Race Movement, but we actually bring people together to represent what is the actual example and model from the church. In other words, we can get on our knees, pray to each other, pray to God, and allow us to be reconciled. We did a march like doing the George Floyd issue. CNN, all those other groups, they highlighted people that were out there violently in the streets. We did a march of 13,000 people that did not get any response from the liberal media, but 13,000 people rallied and said, we're here for Jesus, we're here for one voice, one heart, and therefore people begin to recognize that the church does have something to say about injustice. But most of all, you have to have the combination of justice and righteousness. The two have to go together. One without the other is not going to be a biblical model. So that's what we're trying to do here, is establish a biblical model for every crisis that's facing our nation.
Well, we're going to stand with you, Bishop Hunt, and we're going to have 13,000 people march and not have it on the news. The only way we could end that is to have a citizen journalism movement where all of us in programs like this are covering those events. You guys can get Crisis in America, a Christian Response on Amazon. I believe they could go to crisisinamerica.org. Is that right?
.us. Crisisinamerica.us. That's correct.
Wonderful. And Bishop, we're going to have you back again to talk more about this. I'm finishing your book. I'm halfway through. I can hardly put it down. So we'll be talking to you some more. Thank you for being our guest. Mercedes, they can still connect with you at Follow Sadie's. Is that right?
Follow Sadie's on all social media and followsadies.com. And I loved having Bishop on. That's one of my favorite verses, Isaiah 59.
Well, we got 20 seconds before we close out. What would you like to say?
Oh, you know, I always love plugging you, my friend. So LanceWallNow.com and Lance Wall on all social media. Go check him out. He's one of the funniest guys out there. So I'm looking forward to next week. Thanks for watching, everybody.
And make sure to recommend this program to your friends. Share this if you're watching it on social media. And we read all your comments, so give us your opinion. Hi, I'm Lance Wallnow, and I want to confide in you a challenge that I've had. You know, I believe that speaking the truth is one of the responsibilities of a Christian. I feel it's important to be able to talk about every subject we need to talk about. And I don't want to be edited by somebody else's political correctness or their religious belief system. But that's what's happening in America. There is a powerful, paranoid, propagandizing force that's been taking over media and causing us to all edit our conversations so as to avoid being censored or isolated or sent to some gulag in the internet. I've found a way to make this work. It's a new platform. It's called Liftable. It's a place where I can form the real underground, the thing I've wanted to do for years. A place where we can mobilize and work together, give you the news the way it really is, and tell you where we can meet and make a difference. You're going to want to join me there in the underground. I look forward to seeing you on Liftable TV.
For more great content, be sure to tune in at liftable.tv/underground.